Hello. Welcome to Portland. Sorry for a quick delay right there. Hope everybody's doing well today. Jazz first preseason game gets underway tonight, 7 o'clock Pacific time, so 8 o'clock where you are. It's on Root Sports, as well as Braun and I will be with you on 1320 KFan. Remember, a bunch of really good holiday ticket packages are available if you want to head out to any of the games coming up. We'd love to have you out there. They've got a neat skull candy package, which includes the Darren Williams game coming up, which should be interesting on January 14th, as well as the Raptors game on the 25th. Raptors look good against the Celtics in the preseason game yesterday. Plus, you get a Bees voucher and you get a pair of Skull Candy earbuds. That is all for just $40 per person. $40 per person. So call 801-325-2999. 801-325-2999. All right, let me work backwards, then take some questions from Lock Tip-Off, maybe touch on some NFLs. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff there to talk about as well. The first thing, scrimmage on Saturday, I don't take a lot from it. I'm not trying to negate the value. It was great fun. It was fun to see the guys out there. We had a nice time in the round table. The crowd was amazing. You guys are incredible. But there wasn't a lot of things. CJ looked good. Raja looked good. Gordon looked good. Cantor didn't look particularly good. Let's realize on Cantor, he's 19. I can tell you that when I was interviewing him that day, he was noticeably nervous. Like his heart was pounding. Add the kind of flop of the dance off. I just think the kid, he's just spinning. He's just spinning. Give him some time. He hasn't played in 2 years. He's sure a big kid who knows how to use his body. He doesn't have a great deal of lift. Ron talked about that a lot on the broadcast. And so there's if you're concerned, just having seen him for the first time, is that he doesn't have a lot of lift. I really do think he's going to be able to rebound in this league. And then he has a pretty good touch we haven't seen yet. It's going to take some time before we see him out there. He just has not played. He's very young. And I wouldn't, I think it's a little absurd for anyone to hit the panic button on that. That was an interesting night, though. Ricky Rubio made his debut. Jimmer made his debut. They both kind of brought a lot of attention, played pretty well. Both of them did kind of what you'd expect them to do. Jimmer can score. Rubio can pass. It doesn't get into any game planning or offensive running or any of those kind of things yet. I mean, remember last year, Gordon Hayward at the Staples Center was pretty dominating in a preseason game and then looked lost for about 3.5 months. So some of this can be overplayed, including what we do tonight. The Jazz media notes. For those of you on YouTube, I'll show you what this looks like. I had them on the plane. I haven't opened them, my new ones yet. So you get these little folders. They're kind of cool. My kids have all NBA Portland Trailblazer folder. And it gives us, look on YouTube, starting lineups. And the Utah Jazz published starting lineup is Raja Bell, Devin Harris, Gordon Hayward, Mehmet Okur, and Al Jefferson. Wow. Mehmet Okur and Al Jefferson. Now, a lot of you seem to go nuts about Raja, so let me start there. There really is no other choice. I will say I don't have a dog in this fight or really care one way or the other. But the idea that everyone's like, oh, it's got to be CJ over Raja. Like, CJ really wasn't very good last year. I mean, he had a pretty terrible offensive year. Raja did too. But the idea that it has to be CJ over Raja, so somehow that's been earned, I have to tell you, I think is a pretty weak argument, other than you like CJ and for whatever reason Raja struck you wrong. That's fine. That's part of being a fan, but just logically that it doesn't vibe. Mehmet Okur and Al Jefferson, I'll be honest, I was surprised. It's an interesting idea. It's then using Jefferson as your 4 and Memo as your 5. It's allowing bigger, longer, veteran. It's allowing Memo to space the floor for Al. It's allowing Al to play off the center position. I'm surprised, though. I thought Favors and Memo would be, Jefferson and Memo would be the centers, and Favors and Millsap would be the small or power forwards. Maybe the biggest story here is that Paul's not starting. And we'll talk to Ty today and see what the word on that is. Um, but the word we're hearing is that Paul's all right with that, and that Paul and Ty have talked, and that Paul is just being the consummate pro, and knows he'll get his minutes, get his time, and seems to be okay with it. I think this will all evolve, but this is interesting. Memo is your starting center before the Achilles tendon. He's back and seems to be moving. I don't know how quick he is. And you're allowing Al in a lineup that we never ever got to see, that you frankly hoped you were going to see at some point between those two. Let Millsap slide back to 3, and then Favors develops. You're going to have to find a way to make sure you get Favors enough minutes. But this is definitely, Ty's putting a stamp on something in a manner that I don't think any of us anticipated. So I find it very interesting, and I'm curious to see. I'm a little worried defensively whether or not that's not the most athletic unit you've ever seen. So will they be all right in that regard? But then trying to figure out, I think there's some extent where you're trying to figure out what combinations are playing together and how they're going to play together and what groups are going to play together. Maybe this is the right way to start it. So we'll see if it lasts throughout the whole preseason. But the the word is that there actually is something to this. That Memo and Al playing together is not just a preseason moment, and that there's some thought to trying to keep these guys together in that regard. So it's interesting. Again, I'd say the primary issue is just veteran. Number 2, let's see how they work offensively together. And then 3, the concern would be athletically what they're able to do. And 4, how you get Derek Favors his minutes. Let's go to some lock tip-off questions. First one comes from Z23, who's been a pretty regular. And you can always send me your questions on YouTube at #LockTipOff. Who guards the 4 spot? Okay, we hit it right off the shoot. In regards to I think you're going to have Al start on that. Aldridge is not playing tonight, so it'll be very hard to evaluate that. But I'm guessing that Al would play the 4 and Memo would play the 5. And we'll see on the new defensive systems of whether or not that becomes a good rim protecting lineup. And that's pretty big. I mean, Memo registers in at 6'11 and Al's 6'10, so you're suddenly pretty long. Gordon at the 3, Raj at the 2. We'll see where that works. From B-Ball Extremist, do you think Monte Ellis is a ball hog with second best in assists for a non-point guard? Why do you not like Monte Ellis? Well, Monte was better last year, and his name is with an A, not an E, by the way. But he is, I'm not convinced he's a player that helps you win. His plus-minus has always been terrible. And he has an assist rate because after he's finished with the ball, he dishes the ball off if he can't score. He is not giving assists at the rate of but he's a fabulous creator. I'm not trying to negate what he does as a creator. I'm not sure he helps make his other teams better. I'm not sure. Last year's better useless possessions above league average, I think, for the first time. Give me a quick chance to check that, and I will. But he's just not a player who plays the game necessarily in a manner in which I'm a fan. The Warriors love him, I think, but I think they need to trade him. I don't think you can have him on the same team as Steph Curry and build for the future. It's too small. And he just doesn't, he really doesn't have a position. Defensively. He's a 1 who plays the 2. Last year, Monte was above the league average barely, but he's not, for a guy who scores 24 points a game, according to my systems, I would just say that Monte Ellis scores 24 points a game, looks amazing, everyone loves him. On my lock offensive rankings, he comes out as a 12, which is just a notch above average. Steph Curry, on the other hand, comes out as a 28, who is, Steph Curry is just a vastly different level of efficiency. I think he's a far better player. And by having Monte Ellis on the floor, you're taking things away from Steph. There's a little concern on Steph how rarely he goes to the free throw line, but he's small, and that may change as time goes on. Downright Dave, do you think not dancing the dance off should be an automatic cut? I thought that was bad. Cantrick just freaked. He didn't know what was coming. There were a few other guys too. It was really just quite a bad dance off. And that was disappointing. Ute Jazz fan says, what will Showard bring defensively to the Jazz, and how does he compare defensively to AK? Well, I think AK is probably the best one of the best wing defensive players in the NBA, so he will not compare because I don't think anyone's as good as AK in that regard. But Josh brings just a little bit more athleticism if he's healthy. And I think when you just see that Raj is starting at the 2 and Gordon's got to slide to a 3, and you're like, but really, like, who are you telling me should start? And it just shows you how badly the Jazz needed that 5th guy. Another question, #LockTipOff, was KOC holding back when Jerry's around, made some bold moves since. I don't know. I mean, I think that the organization was very set on who they were and how they acquired players, and bringing in some of these guys with catered pass. I think you have to do it every now and then, particularly maybe how you get somebody at value. Um, and so we'll see. I think Josh Howard will probably play a little bit tonight, so that should be curious to see. But again, hard to value. He's probably not in great physical shape, and we probably won't know much on that until give him a few weeks. I mean, this is so hard. We've pushed everything forward so fast, and now everybody wants to evaluate everything immediately. Things I'm going to watch, just obviously I want to see if Burks and Cantor get in, just how they look in a real setting with defense. But again, always keep an eye on who's guarding whom. You know, last year Derek Favors looked very good here in Portland late in the year, but he's being guarded by Chris Johnson, who's, I guess at this point, probably their fourth big, behind Wallace, Canby, Aldridge. Yeah, I think it's probably where Kirk Thomas, maybe the fifth. And Craig Smith, I love their pick of Craig Smith. They've got a good bench. And so I think that you have to, be a little careful when you see who's guarding guys, what the value of what they do is. And so keep an eye on that. Don't go over. I know we want immediate reaction, Twitter world. Don't go nuts. All right, that's tip off. If you get a chance, you're a big basketball fan, you listen to this. I would strongly suggest for the Basketball Prospectus. Pay $7.95 for Shoney. It's Kevin Pelton's projection system. If you're a fantasy player, you have to get it. It's really quite good. So thanks to Kevin, who sent me along some of that stuff, and I've relayed some of it to you. You guys should pick that up. $7.95. Not that big a deal. Hard to put in a stocking, but otherwise it's pretty good. That is tip off for today.